My daughter-in-law just told me she's going to grab water and postcards, then vanished like a magician's assistant, except less impressive and more criminal. I'm sitting on this bench watching our train disappear into the mountains, and I'm starting to think Amber's bathroom break might be more permanent than advertised. What happens next is going to teach my dear daughter-in-law that abandoning a woman with early-stage Alzheimer's isn't the same as abandoning a woman who's lost her damn mind. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. You know what they say about 70-year-old women? We're either sweet grandmas baking cookies, or we're dangerous because we've run out of patience for bullshit. Guess which category I fall into? My name is Vera, and right now I'm sitting at Pine Valley Station, population 12 if you count the stray cats, wondering how my daughter-in-law could be this spectacularly stupid. I mean, really, Amber? A train station? If you're going to commit elder abuse, at least have the courtesy to be good at it. This whole mess started 2 months ago when my doctor dropped the A word on me. Not that A word, Alzheimer's. Early stages, he said, like that was supposed to be comforting. You have maybe 5 good years before significant decline, he explained, with the bedside manner of a tax auditor collecting back payments. So naturally, I decided to organize my finances. $800,000 doesn't organize itself, and Tyler's been my golden boy since his father died. I figured I'd donate half to the children's home where I grew up and leave the rest to Tyler when I'm pushing up daisies. But then Tyler started getting creative with his financial advice. Mom, maybe with your condition, I should help manage your finances. Keep things simple. Simple, right? Like early-stage Alzheimer's suddenly made me unable to count to 10 without using my fingers. But Tyler planting seeds of doubt was nothing compared to Amber's sudden transformation into the daughter-in-law of the year. Amber, who normally couldn't remember my birthday if it was tattooed on her forehead, suddenly wanted to spend quality time together. This past weekend, we took the train to Mountain View Springs Resort. 48 hours of mud baths, massages, and Amber being more attentive than a flight attendant on her first day. She paid for everything, carried my things, and kept asking how I was feeling mentally. The resort was lovely, but something felt off the entire time. Amber kept taking photos of me when I looked tired or confused. She'd ask me the same questions multiple times, then get that concerned look when I pointed it out. By Sunday morning, I was ready to get home. We packed up and headed to the station for our return trip. That's when Amber got very concerned about my purse. Vera, honey, these mountain stations can be sketchy. Why don't you let me keep your purse safe in my big bag? She wasn't really asking. Before I could protest, my purse was nestled in her oversized tote bag. The train ride back started pleasantly enough until we made our connection at Pine Valley Station. Our train home doesn't leave for 20 minutes, Amber announced. Perfect timing. I need to grab us some water for the rest of the trip. She walked toward the station building with my purse, and I settled on the bench to wait. 20 minutes later, the train whistle blew. I looked around for Amber. No sign of her. The conductor called all aboard. Still no Amber. The train pulled away, and that's when it hit me. I've just been played by a woman who couldn't find her way out of a paper bag with a map and a GPS. The station manager appears at my elbow, a thin man who looks about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Ma'am, are you all right? I saw your companion leave without you. Oh, she left all right, I say sweetly. Unless she's practicing to be a magician's assistant, in which case she's very talented at making grandmothers disappear. He looks confused. Should I call someone for you? That would be lovely, dear, but not my family. They seem to be having their own memory issues. I give him my most innocent grandmother smile. Perhaps the police. Officer Martinez arrives an hour later, and I like her immediately. She's a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looks like she's heard every sob story, excuse, and outright lie that humans can produce. Mrs. Henderson, she says, settling beside me, tell me exactly what happened here. So I do. Every detail, from Amber's sudden interest in spa weekends to her disappearing act with my purse. And you believe this was intentional? Honey, I say, I've been married, raised a child, and survived 7 decades on this planet. The only thing I'm not sure about is whether Amber's just stupid or whether she's stupidly criminal. Officer Martinez makes a phone call. 20 minutes later, Elena Rodriguez steps out of a sedan, looking like she was born ready for battle. Mrs. Henderson? She has a handshake that could crack walnuts. Officer Martinez tells me you might need legal assistance. That depends, I say. How do you feel about taking down someone who thinks abandoning elderly women is a viable career path? Elena grins like a shark. Let's talk. She drives me to a motel and explains what we're dealing with. If this was planned, We're looking at elder abuse, potentially kidnapping, and fraud if they try to access your accounts, she says. But proving intent is the challenge. And honestly, Mrs. Henderson, the system doesn't always believe elderly victims. What do you mean? I mean, juries hear elderly woman with Alzheimer's and think confused testimony. Prosecutors hear family dispute and think civil matter. And judges hear she got home safely and think no real harm done. So I'm fighting an uphill battle? You're fighting a mountain, Mrs. Henderson. But mountains can be climbed. That night, lying in a bed that's seen better decades, I realized this isn't going to be as simple as I thought. It's not enough to be right. I have to prove I'm right to people who are already inclined to think I'm confused. But here's what Amber doesn't understand about early-stage Alzheimer's. It doesn't make you helpless. It makes you careful. When you know your mind might betray you someday, you start paying attention to everything else that might betray you first. Tomorrow, I start gathering evidence. Real evidence. The kind that even skeptical prosecutors can't dismiss. The next morning, Elena returns with coffee and the first piece of bad news. Your bank called, she says. Someone tried to access your accounts yesterday afternoon. My stomach drops. Who? Tyler. He went in claiming you were missing and experiencing a mental health crisis. He wanted emergency access to protect your assets. I stare at Elena. Tyler went to the bank? With documentation of your concerning behavior and a story about you wandering away from home in a confused state. But I didn't wander away from home. I went on a planned trip with his wife. Elena's expression is carefully neutral. Vera, what if Tyler doesn't know where you really are? The pieces start clicking together. That manipulative little witch. She's playing us both. The bank manager said Tyler seemed genuinely distraught. Kept talking about how you'd been acting strange lately. How worried he was about your safety. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking my son's an innocent victim while he's trying to freeze my bank accounts. Elena pulls out more files. There's something else. Tyler's been researching guardianship laws for the past 6 weeks. I feel the walls closing in. So either Tyler's the mastermind and Amber's his accomplice, or Amber's been manipulating Tyler just as effectively as she manipulated me. Which means your son is either a criminal or an idiot. Elena, honey, you're not helping. Sorry, but Vera, we need to know which Tyler we're dealing with before we make our next move. I dial Tyler's number with shaking hands. Mom? His voice is raw with worry. Oh my God, where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine, sweetheart, but we need to talk. Mom, thank God. Amber's been looking everywhere for you. She said you got confused and left the resort. Tyler, stop. Amber didn't lose me. She abandoned me. Silence. What? Amber left me at a train station with no money, no phone, and no way to get home. Mom, that's not what happened. Amber said you wandered off. Tyler, honey, I didn't wander anywhere. Amber took my purse and left me stranded. Mom, you're confused. You're not thinking clearly. And there it is. Amber's made Tyler an unwitting accomplice by convincing him I'm the one who's unreliable. Tyler, I say carefully, where do you think I am right now? I don't know. That's why we're so worried. I'm at the Pines Motel in Pine Valley with a lawyer named Elena Rodriguez. We're building a case against your wife for elder abuse. Elder abuse? Mom, you're not making sense. Tyler, ask yourself this. If Amber was really looking for me, why hasn't she called the police? Why hasn't she filed a missing person report? Long pause. She said she was going to. When? It's been 2 days. She wanted to find you first, before involving authorities. Tyler, that's not how missing persons work. Tyler's voice is getting smaller. I'm here. I'm just processing. Tyler, I need you to think about the last few months. Has Amber been asking questions about my finances, about my health, about my will? She's been concerned about you. Has she been documenting my confusion, taking photos when I look tired, asking me the same questions repeatedly? Mom? Tyler's voice cracks. Tyler, your wife has been building a case that I'm incompetent. The spa trip wasn't a vacation. It was a fact-finding mission. But why would she? What does she gain from? Tyler trails off as the implications hit him. Tyler, if something happened to me while I was confused and missing, what would happen to my money? It would go to me. And if you died, or in a divorce, half would go to Amber. After I hang up, Elena looks impressed. That went better than I expected. Tyler's a good man who married a sociopath. Once he understands what's really happening, he'll do the right thing. 3 days later, Tyler calls Amber while Elena and I listen from the Pine Valley police station. Amber, thank God, Tyler says. I found her. Tyler, oh my God, where was she? Is she okay? She's at the bank with me. She's not okay, Amber. What do you mean? She was trying to make some kind of large financial transaction. The manager called me when she couldn't provide proper ID and seemed confused. We're testing whether Amber knows about Tyler's earlier visit to the bank. Oh no, Amber breathes. Tyler, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Amber, where are you? Can you come here? I'm about 40 minutes away. I've been driving around all these little towns. Tyler, I haven't slept in 3 days looking for her. The pause that follows is just a beat too long. Amber, what town are you in? I'm checking the hotels in Cedar Falls. Tyler, is she acting strange? She keeps insisting that you abandoned her at some train station. She seems to think you left her there on purpose. Another pause, longer this time. Oh, honey, Amber says, and her voice has that perfectly calibrated sympathy. She's really confused. Tyler, we need to get her to a doctor immediately. An hour later, Amber walks into the bank looking like she's been through hell. Disheveled clothes, no makeup, the perfect picture of a concerned daughter-in-law. Vera! She rushes over and hugs me. Oh, thank God you're safe. I was so worried. If I didn't know better, I'd buy every word. Hello, Amber, I say carefully. I was wondering where you went. Went? Honey, I've been looking for you everywhere. When I woke up and you weren't in your room, I searched the entire resort. I wasn't in my room? No, sweetie. You must have gotten confused and wandered off during the night. Tyler's watching this performance with fascination and horror. Elena, who's been standing quietly in the corner, steps forward. Excuse me, she says. I'm Elena Rodriguez, Mrs. Henderson's attorney. Amber notices Elena for the first time, and something flickers across her face. Not fear exactly, but calculation. I'm sorry, who did you say you were? Mrs. Henderson's attorney. We've been discussing some legal issues. What kind of legal issues? The kind that arise when someone abandons an elderly person at a train station. Elena pulls out her folder. Train ticket records showing you purchased only one return ticket. Bank records showing Tyler inquired about emergency protocols before you called him. And witness statements from the station manager. Amber's mask doesn't slip, but it shifts slightly. These are all misunderstandings. I can explain everything. Please do. I bought one return ticket because Vera was supposed to drive back with friends she met at the resort. When that fell through, I was going to buy her another ticket, but she'd already disappeared. Elena makes notes. What friends? A lovely couple. I don't remember their names. Mrs. Henderson, the resort has no record of you making arrangements for alternative transportation because I made the arrangements with the other guests directly, and these guests would be able to verify this? I don't have their contact information. Tyler's face is getting harder. Amber, how do you explain Mom ending up at Pine Valley Station if you never took a train there? She must have gotten confused and taken the wrong train when she left the resort. Elena looks up from her notes. Mrs. Henderson, if your mother-in-law was missing and possibly confused, why didn't you file a police report immediately? I wanted to find her first. For 3 days? Mrs. Henderson, we've contacted hotels and hospitals in a 50-mile radius. None of them have any record of you inquiring about a missing person. Amber goes very still. That's impossible. Can you provide phone records to verify these calls? My phone was having problems. I called from payphones. Elena's smile could freeze hell. Mrs. Henderson, there are no payphones within 50 miles of Mountain View Springs Resort. And that's when Amber realizes she's been caught. I think I need a lawyer, she says. That's probably wise, Elena agrees, because you're about to be arrested for elder abuse, attempted fraud, and conspiracy. Officer Martinez steps forward with handcuffs. Amber Henderson, you're under arrest. As Miranda rights are read, Amber looks at Tyler with desperation. Tyler, please. You have to believe me. Your mother is sick. She's confused about what happened. Tyler stares at his wife like he's seeing her for the first time. Amber, I believed you for 3 days. I was ready to help you get emergency access to Mom's accounts because I thought she was having a breakdown. She is having a breakdown. The only breakdown here is your story falling apart. Tyler, I love you. I love your mother. I would never hurt either of you. You left my mother to die at a train station. That's not what happened. Then what did happen? Amber looks around the room desperately. It's complicated. Uncomplicate it. I can't explain with all these people listening. You've had 3 days to tell me the truth. I was protecting you. From what? From the truth about your mother's condition. Tyler's getting angry now. What truth? She's worse than you think. She's paranoid, delusional. Maybe because someone actually is trying to steal from her. As the police escort Amber out, she turns back one more time. Tyler, this isn't over. You'll see. When she gets worse, you'll understand that I was trying to help. Amber, the only thing I understand is that I married someone who tried to murder my mother. After she's gone, Tyler and I sit in the empty bank conference room. Mom, I'm so sorry. For what? For being married to someone who tried to kill you. For being too stupid to see what she was doing. Tyler, you weren't stupid. You were trusting. I should have known better. Tyler, honey, she fooled me too. For 2 days I thought you were innocent. Mom, I almost helped her steal your money. But you didn't. When you understood what was really happening, you chose to protect me instead of protecting yourself. What happens now? Now we see if the legal system actually protects elderly people or just pretends to. Elena gathers her files. Tyler, your mother is about to discover that being the victim of elder abuse doesn't automatically mean getting justice for elder abuse. What's that supposed to mean? It means that prosecutors like cases they can win easily. Elderly victims with Alzheimer's diagnoses don't always make for easy wins. But we have evidence. We have some evidence. But Amber's going to get a lawyer who's going to argue that your mother is confused, that this was all a misunderstanding. Tyler looks at me. Mom, are you ready for that fight? I think about everything we've been through, about the choice between being a victim and being a survivor. Tyler, honey, I've been ready for this fight since the moment I realized my own family was more interested in my death than my life. And if we lose, then we lose fighting instead of giving up. But Tyler, we're not going to lose. How can you be sure? Because Amber made one crucial mistake. What's that? She thought early-stage Alzheimer's made me vulnerable. What it actually made me was dangerous. 2 weeks later, Elena calls with news that makes my blood pressure spike. Vera, we have a problem. The prosecutor is considering dropping the charges. What do you mean dropping the charges? He says the evidence is circumstantial. Amber's lawyer is arguing that she was genuinely trying to help you, that the abandonment was accidental, and that your Alzheimer's diagnosis makes your testimony unreliable. Are you kidding me? I wish I were. Vera, this is exactly what I was afraid of. The system is designed to protect criminals who target elderly people because elderly testimony is automatically suspect. Elena comes over that afternoon with a laptop and a look of grim determination. What are you thinking? I ask. I'm thinking we need to find out who Amber really is, because most of her background doesn't check out. Elena spends the next 3 hours running searches while Tyler and I watch over her shoulder. What she finds makes my stomach drop. Vera, I think we've been looking at this all wrong. How so? We've been assuming Amber targeted Tyler randomly. But what if someone specifically directed her to Tyler as a target? What do you mean? I mean, what if Amber didn't just randomly meet Tyler and decide to marry him for his inheritance? What if someone told her about your money? Tyler goes pale. That's crazy. Elena pulls up criminal databases. Tyler, your wife has been using multiple identities. The college she claims she attended has no record of her. Previous addresses don't exist. Even her social security number has irregularities. So, who is she? Her real name appears to be Amanda Walsh. She's been convicted of financial fraud in 2 other states. Convicted? 2 years in Nevada for defrauding an elderly man out of his retirement savings. 3 years suspended in Oregon for insurance fraud. Tyler sits down hard. She's a career criminal. Tyler, it gets worse. Amanda Walsh was working with an organization that specifically targets families with elderly relatives who have significant assets. An organization? Elena shows us case files from other states. Look at the patterns. Young women befriend men with wealthy elderly relatives, marry them quickly, then systematically drain the elderly person's accounts. I study the files. How many cases? Dozens, maybe hundreds. Vera, Amber isn't just some greedy daughter-in-law. She's a professional criminal who specializes in elder abuse. And Tyler was just, what? A mark? Tyler was specifically targeted because someone identified you as a vulnerable elderly person with significant assets and no other children. Tyler stares at the computer screen. Jesus, our entire relationship was a lie. Tyler, I say gently, Amber didn't marry you. She married my bank account. Elena's phone rings. She answers it, listens for a moment, then her eyes go wide. That was the prosecutor, she says, hanging up. Amber wants to make a deal. What kind of deal? Full confession in exchange for a reduced sentence. But Vera, there's something else. What? She says she has information about the organization she was working for. Names, locations, other targets. And in exchange, she wants immunity from prosecution in other states where she's committed similar crimes. Tyler looks between Elena and me. Should we take the deal? That depends, I say. How much do we trust a woman who's been lying to us for 3 years? But if she can help stop other people from being victimized, Elena shakes her head. Tyler, criminals who make deals usually tell you just enough truth to get what they want, then disappear. So what do? We build our own case, strong enough that we don't need Amber's cooperation. How? Elena closes her laptop. By proving that Amber's part of a pattern, and by finding other victims who are willing to testify. You think there are other victims? Tyler, your wife is a professional criminal. Of course there are other victims. 3 weeks later, Elena has identified 6 other cases across 4 states where women matching Amber's description targeted elderly people through their adult children. All the same pattern, Elena reports. Young woman meets man with wealthy elderly relative. Quick marriage, systematic financial manipulation, then either theft or abandonment when the elderly person becomes suspicious. What happened to the elderly victims? 2 died under suspicious circumstances after changing their wills. 1 was found abandoned at a shopping mall during a winter storm and died of exposure. 3 others survived but lost their life savings. Tyler looks sick. And the men they married? Most of them testified against their wives once they understood what happened, just like you're going to do. How do you know? Because Tyler, you're not the first good man to be manipulated by a professional criminal, and you won't be the last. The trial is set for 6 months later. In the meantime, Elena and I work with prosecutors in multiple states to build a comprehensive case against not just Amber, but the organization she's been working for. Vera, Elena says one afternoon, I need to ask you something. What's that? Are you prepared for what Amber's defense team is going to do to you? What are they going to do? They're going to argue that you're confused, unreliable, and possibly lying about what happened because of your Alzheimer's diagnosis. Let them try. Vera, they're going to be brutal. They're going to make you look like a confused old woman who can't remember what she had for breakfast. Elena, honey, I may forget what I had for breakfast, but I remember every detail of someone trying to murder me. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of cross-examination? I think about everything Amber put me through, the systematic manipulation, the deliberate isolation, the abandonment that could have killed me. Elena, I've been preparing for this cross-examination my entire adult life. What do you mean? I mean, I've been dealing with people who underestimate elderly women since I was 30. The only difference is, now I know exactly what I'm dealing with. And what's that? A professional criminal who made the mistake of thinking that early-stage Alzheimer's makes someone an easy target. And you're going to prove her wrong? Elena, honey, I already proved her wrong. Now I'm just going to make sure everyone else knows it. The trial begins on a Tuesday morning in October, and the courthouse is packed. Word has gotten out about the case, and apparently, elderly woman fights back against criminal daughter-in-law is the kind of story that draws media attention. Mrs. Henderson, the prosecutor says, can you tell the jury about your relationship with the defendant? Amber was married to my son for 3 years, I say, looking directly at her. During that time, she systematically manipulated him into believing I was mentally incompetent while planning to steal my money and abandon me to die. That's a very serious accusation. It's also a very accurate description of what happened. I walk the jury through every detail. The sudden interest in my finances, the documentation of supposed confusion, the spa weekend that was actually reconnaissance, and the train station abandonment. Mrs. Henderson, did you ever suspect that the defendant was planning to harm you? I suspected she was planning something. When someone who normally can't remember your birthday suddenly wants to manage your medical care, that's a red flag. How did you respond to these red flags? I paid attention. I documented our conversations. I prepared for the possibility that someone in my family might try to take advantage of my medical diagnosis. During cross-examination, Amber's lawyer tries to paint me as a vindictive elderly woman whose testimony can't be trusted. Mrs. Henderson, you have early-stage Alzheimer's. How can the jury trust your memory of these events? Counselor, I may forget where I put my car keys, but I remember every detail of someone trying to murder me. Trauma creates very clear memories, even for people with Alzheimer's. But isn't it possible that your condition affected your interpretation of events? My condition affects my short-term memory, not my ability to recognize when someone's trying to steal my money and leave me to die. Mrs. Henderson, the defendant claims she was trying to help you. The defendant claims a lot of things. She claimed she was looking for me when she was actually at home. She claimed she was concerned about my welfare when she was documenting evidence of my supposed incompetence. But surely you can understand why a young woman might be overwhelmed. Counselor, abandoning someone at a train station isn't the normal response to feeling overwhelmed. It's the normal response to wanting someone dead. When Tyler testifies, He's clear and direct about his role in Amber's manipulation. She convinced me that my mother's condition was deteriorating rapidly, he says. She showed me photographs and documentation that seemed to prove Mom was becoming dangerous to herself. When did you realize you were being manipulated? When I saw my mother walk into the bank, very much alive and very much angry, and realized that everything Amber had told me was designed to make me an accomplice in elder abuse. During Amber's testimony, she sticks to her story that she was genuinely trying to help me. I was concerned about Mrs. Henderson's safety, she says. She was showing signs of confusion and poor judgment. I thought the trip might help her realize she needed more support. So you abandoned her at a train station? I didn't abandon her. I was looking for help when she disappeared. Mrs. Henderson, you bought only one return ticket. How do you explain that? I was planning to drive back with her, but then she seemed confused, and I thought the train would be safer. But you didn't take the train with her? I was going to, but she left before I could get back to the platform. The prosecutor pulls out phone records. Mrs. Henderson, these show that you called your husband within hours of allegedly losing his mother. You told him she was missing, but you never called local police or the resort security. I called Tyler because I thought he should know, but you didn't call authorities who could actually help find her? I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. Mrs. Henderson, were you upset because you lost your mother-in-law or because your plan wasn't working? Objection. Sustained. But the damage is done. The jury sees through Amber's lies as easily as I did. The evidence against her is overwhelming. Financial records showing her debts, communications with other criminals, and testimony from victims in other states who survived similar schemes. The jury deliberates for 4 hours. When they return, the foreman stands with an expression that suggests Amber's not going to like what comes next. Guilty on all counts. Amber gets 12 years in federal prison. Not as long as I'd hoped, but long enough that she'll be past her prime manipulating years when she gets out. After the sentencing, Tyler and I walk out of the courthouse together. How do you feel? He asks. Satisfied? Not happy, but satisfied. What's the difference? Happy would mean none of this ever happened. Satisfied means justice was served despite it happening. Mom, what happens now? Now you rebuild your life without a criminal wife, and I figure out what to do with the rest of mine. What do you want to do? I want to make sure this doesn't happen to other families. How? By teaching people how to recognize the warning signs, by helping elderly people protect themselves, by making sure criminals like Amber don't find easy targets. You're going to become an advocate? Tyler, honey, I've been an advocate since the moment I refused to die quietly at that train station. And me? You're going to learn to trust your own judgment instead of trusting people who tell you what you want to hear. How do I do that? By remembering that the right person loves you for who you are, not for what you might inherit someday. As we reach our cars, Tyler asks, Mom, do you forgive me? For what? For almost choosing Amber over you. Tyler, you didn't choose Amber over me. You got fooled by a professional manipulator. There's a difference. What's the difference? The difference is that when you understood what was really happening, you chose to protect me instead of protecting yourself. That's what family does. Even when they make mistakes? Especially when they make mistakes. That's when family matters most. 6 months after Amber's sentencing, Elena calls me with unexpected news. Vera, remember how I said there were probably other victims of Amber's organization? Yes. Did you find more? We found a lot more. The FBI wants to interview you. About what? About becoming a consultant on elder abuse cases. Apparently, your case has inspired other elderly victims to come forward. How many other victims? Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Vera, you've started something. 3 days later, I'm sitting in a federal building in Denver, meeting with Special Agent Sarah Chen and a task force investigating organized elder abuse. Mrs. Henderson, Agent Chen says, your case was unique because you survived and fought back. Most elderly victims either don't recognize what's happening to them, or they're too embarrassed to report it. What makes you think I can help? Because you understand how these criminals operate. You recognized the warning signs, documented the evidence, and testified effectively despite attempts to discredit you. Agent Chen, I got lucky. If Officer Martinez hadn't believed me, if Elena hadn't taken my case, if Tyler hadn't chosen to support me. Mrs. Henderson, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. You were prepared because you paid attention to what was happening to you. Agent Chen spreads files across the conference table. We've identified similar cases in 37 states. The organization Amber was working for has been operating for over a decade. How many victims? Conservative estimate? Over 500 elderly people, with total losses exceeding $200 million. I sit back in my chair. 200 million? And those are just the cases we know about. Mrs. Henderson, we think this is the tip of the iceberg. What do you need from me? We need you to help us understand how they select targets, how they approach families, and how they manipulate both elderly victims and their adult children. You want me to profile criminals? We want you to help other families recognize what you recognized. Warning signs, manipulation techniques, red flags that indicate someone is being targeted. Agent Chen pulls out a thick folder. Mrs. Henderson, would you be willing to review these cases and identify patterns? I open the folder and start reading. Case after case of elderly people who were isolated, manipulated, and ultimately defrauded by people they trusted. Some survived, many didn't. Agent Chen, I say after reviewing several files, these people weren't random victims. What do you mean? I mean they were all specifically targeted. Look at the patterns. Recent medical diagnoses, adult children living far away, significant assets, limited social support networks. You think the targeting was systematic? I think someone was identifying vulnerable elderly people and recruiting criminals to target them specifically. How would that work? Medical records, public records, social media? Someone was gathering intelligence and passing it along to operatives like Amber. Agent Chen and her team exchange glances. Mrs. Henderson, if you're right, we're dealing with something much larger than we thought. How much larger? Potentially nationwide, with coordination and planning at a level we've never seen before. Agent Chen, what do you need me to do? We need you to help us educate families about how to protect themselves. Speaking engagements, written materials, consultation on cases where we need to understand the victim's perspective. You want me to become a professional victim? We want you to become a professional survivor who teaches other people how to survive. I think about all the cases in the folder, all the elderly people who didn't have Officer Martinez or Elena Rodriguez or Tyler's eventual support. Agent Chen, how many families could we potentially help? Thousands, maybe tens of thousands. And how many elderly people could we potentially save? Mrs. Henderson, if we can shut down this organization and educate families about the warning signs, we could save hundreds of lives and billions of dollars. When do we start? Are you sure about this? It's going to be a significant time commitment, and it means reliving your experience over and over again. Agent Chen, I'm 72 years old with early-stage Alzheimer's. How much time do I have to waste on things that don't matter? What matters to you? Making sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to other people. Making sure elderly people know they have the right to fight back. Making sure families know how to recognize when someone is being targeted. Mrs. Henderson, welcome to the team. As I leave the federal building, I call Tyler to tell him about my new role. Mom, are you sure about this? It sounds like a lot of stress. Tyler, honey, stress is wondering if your own family is planning to kill you. This is purpose. What's the difference? Stress makes you feel helpless. Purpose makes you feel useful. And you feel useful? For the first time since your father died, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. More than raising me mattered. Tyler, raising you prepared me for this. Everything I learned about protecting myself from people who wanted to take advantage of me is now helping other people protect themselves. So you're saying I was practice? Tyler, you were education. Amber was the final exam. And you passed? Tyler, honey, I didn't just pass. I got extra credit. 3 weeks later, I give my first presentation to a group of senior center directors in Colorado. I tell them Amber's story, but I also tell them Tyler's story, how good people can be manipulated into becoming unwitting accomplices. The most important thing to understand, I tell them, is that these criminals don't just target elderly people. They target entire families. They manipulate adult children into believing their elderly parents need protection, then use that concern as a weapon. How do families protect themselves? Asks one director. By talking to each other, by asking questions when someone suddenly becomes very concerned about an elderly relative's mental state, by documenting any suspicious behavior or requests for financial information. What if the elderly person really does have cognitive issues? Then you get professional help from licensed, bonded professionals who have no financial interest in the outcome. You don't rely on someone who married into the family and suddenly wants to manage everyone's medical and financial decisions. After the presentation, an elderly woman approaches me. Mrs. Henderson, I think someone might be trying to do to me what they did to you. What makes you think that? My daughter-in-law has been asking a lot of questions about my finances lately, and she's been suggesting that I might need help managing my affairs. How long has this been going on? About 6 months. Ever since I mentioned that I was thinking about donating some money to charity, I hand her Elena's business card. Call this lawyer, tell her I sent you, and document every conversation you have with your daughter-in-law from now on. Do you really think? Ma'am, I think you should trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. What if I'm wrong? Then you've been cautious about your finances, which is always smart. But if you're right, you could save your life. As I drive home from the presentation, I realize that this is what the rest of my life is going to look like. Helping other families recognize the warning signs. Teaching elderly people that they have the right to protect themselves. Making sure criminals like Amber don't find easy targets. At 72 years old, with early-stage Alzheimer's and a lifetime of hard-won wisdom, I've finally found my purpose. I'm not just a victim who survived. I'm a survivor who's fighting to make sure other people don't become victims. 1 year after Amber's sentencing, I'm having lunch with Tyler when he tells me something that makes me realize how much we've both changed. Mom, I have some news. Good news or bad news? Good news. I'm dating someone. I set down my sandwich. Oh? Her name is Rebecca. She's a librarian. She has no idea how much money you have, and she thinks my most attractive quality is that I remember what books she recommends. How long have you been dating? 8 months. I wanted to wait until I was sure before telling you. Sure about what? Sure that she likes me for me, not for what I might inherit someday. And Rebecca thinks I'm interesting because I work hard and make her laugh. She's never once asked about family finances. Tyler, that's wonderful. I learned something, Mom. What's that? I learned the difference between someone who loves you and someone who loves what you can do for them. What's the difference? Someone who loves you wants you to be happy and successful. Someone who loves what you can do for them wants you to be useful and grateful. Which was Amber. Amber wanted me to be useful. She wanted me to give her access to your money and grateful that she was willing to help manage your care. And Rebecca? Rebecca wants me to be happy. She encourages me to pursue things I'm interested in, even when they don't benefit her at all. Like what? I'm taking electrical classes at the community college. Rebecca thinks it's great that I'm learning a skill, even though it means I have less time to spend with her. You're becoming an electrician? I'm learning a trade that can support me without depending on anyone else. Rebecca says she finds independence attractive. I reach across the table and squeeze Tyler's hand. Tyler, I'm proud of you. For what? For learning to choose people who deserve your love instead of people who want to exploit it. I had a good teacher. Who? A 72-year-old woman who refused to be anyone's victim. After lunch, Tyler walks me to my car. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you ever regret pressing charges against Amber? Tyler, do you regret testifying against her? No. She tried to kill you. Then why would I regret making sure she faced consequences for it? I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if there was another way to handle it. Tyler, what other way? Maybe we could have gotten her help. Therapy? Treatment for whatever made her think it was okay to do what she did? Tyler, honey, Amber didn't need therapy. She needed to be stopped. What's the difference? Therapy is for people who want to change their behavior. Prison is for people who need to be prevented from repeating their behavior. And you think Amber would have repeated it? Tyler, Amber is a career criminal who specializes in targeting elderly people. Of course she would have repeated it. But what if prison changes her? Then when she gets out, she'll have the chance to prove she's changed by staying away from elderly people and their families. And if it doesn't change her, then at least she spent 12 years not victimizing anyone else. Tyler considers this. Mom, do you think I'll ever be able to trust my judgment about people again? Tyler, your judgment about people is fine. Your judgment about criminals needed work. What's the difference? Most people are basically good, with normal motivations and honest intentions. Criminals are different. They have different motivations, different methods, and different goals. How do you tell the difference? You pay attention to patterns instead of words. You watch what people do when they think no one's looking. You trust your instincts when something feels wrong. What if my instincts are wrong? Then you err on the side of protecting yourself instead of giving people the benefit of the doubt. That sounds cynical. Tyler, it sounds practical. The cost of trusting someone who doesn't deserve it is much higher than the cost of being cautious with someone who does deserve it. What about Rebecca? What about her? How do I know she's not another Amber? Tyler, how long did Amber wait before asking about my finances? About a month. How long has Rebecca known about your family situation? 8 months. And how many times has she asked about inheritance? Family money? Or my financial situation? Never. Tyler, that's how you know. As Tyler drives away, I sit in my car thinking about the difference between cynicism and wisdom. Cynicism assumes everyone has bad motives. Wisdom pays attention to which people actually do have bad motives. Amber taught Tyler to be suspicious of everyone who claims to love him. Rebecca is teaching him to recognize what genuine love actually looks like. That evening, I'm at home working on my presentation for next week's senior center visit when Elena calls. Vera, I have news about the FBI investigation. What kind of news? They've arrested the leaders of the organization Amber was working for. How many people? 17, across 8 states. They've charged them with conspiracy, elder abuse, fraud, and in 3 cases, murder. Murder? 3 elderly victims died under suspicious circumstances after changing their wills. The FBI found evidence that they were systematically poisoned. I sit down hard. Elena, if Amber's plan had worked, you'd probably be dead. Tyler would have inherited your money, and Amber would have gotten half of it in the divorce. Or all of it if something happened to Tyler too. Vera, the FBI thinks you may have saved dozens of lives by fighting back. How? Your case exposed the organization. Without that, they could have continued operating for years. Elena, how many families did we help? The FBI estimates that over 300 families have been contacted based on intelligence from this investigation. They've prevented an estimated $50 million in additional fraud. And the other victims? Some are getting their money back. Others are at least getting justice. What about the families of people who died? They finally have answers about what happened to their relatives. After Elena hangs up, I think about the choice I made that day at Pine Valley Station. I could have sat on that bench and waited to be rescued. I could have accepted that being elderly and having Alzheimer's made me vulnerable. Instead, I chose to fight back. That choice didn't just save my life, it saved dozens of other lives. At 72 years old, with early-stage Alzheimer's and a lifetime of experience surviving people who underestimate elderly women, I've learned the most important lesson of all. The best way to ensure you're not a victim is to make sure other people don't become victims either. Individual survival is good. Collective protection is better. Tomorrow, I'm giving a presentation to a group of adult children about how to recognize when their elderly parents are being targeted. I'm going to tell them Tyler's story, how a good man can be manipulated into becoming an unwitting accomplice, how love can be used as a weapon, how the people who claim to be helping might actually be causing harm. But I'm also going to tell them Rebecca's story, how to recognize genuine care and concern, how to support elderly relatives without enabling people who want to exploit them. Because the goal isn't to make families suspicious of each other. The goal is to make families smart enough to recognize the difference between protection and predation. 2 years after Amber's sentencing, I'm standing in front of 300 law enforcement officers at a national conference on elder abuse, and I realize that my life has become something I never expected. 2 years ago, I tell them, I was just another elderly woman with early-stage Alzheimer's who someone thought would be an easy target. Today, I'm standing here because I refuse to be anyone's victim. The audience is paying attention in a way that suggests they've seen too many cases where elderly victims didn't fight back effectively. The most important thing I can tell you about elder abuse, I continue, is that it's not just about vulnerable elderly people. It's about entire family systems that get manipulated by people who are very good at identifying and exploiting weaknesses. I walk them through Amber's methodology, how she identified Tyler as a target, how she manipulated him into believing I was incompetent, how she used his love for me as a weapon against both of us. Officers, when you investigate these cases, you're not just looking for evidence that an elderly person was victimized. You're looking for evidence that an entire family was systematically manipulated. Mrs. Henderson, asks a detective from Seattle, what should we look for in terms of warning signs? Sudden changes in an elderly person's social isolation, new people who become very involved in their financial or medical decisions, and adult children who become convinced their parent is more cognitively impaired than medical records indicate. How do we distinguish between genuine concern and manipulation? Ask yourself, who benefits from the elderly person being declared incompetent? Who gains access to resources if the elderly person can't make their own decisions? Who profits from the family's fear and confusion? After my presentation, a young officer approaches me. Mrs. Henderson, I have a case that sounds exactly like what you described. An elderly man, his daughter-in-law suddenly very concerned about his mental state, and a son who's convinced his father needs professional financial management. How long has this been going on? About 6 months. The daughter-in-law has been documenting the father's confusion and suggesting he needs supervised care. Has the elderly man complained about anything? He says his daughter-in-law has been asking too many questions about his finances and his will. But his son thinks that's just paranoia. I hand him my card. Have the son call me. I want to tell him Tyler's story. Do you think we can prevent this? Officer, if the family recognizes what's happening before the daughter-in-law makes her move, absolutely. And if we're too late, then you'll have evidence to prosecute her when she does make her move. That evening, I'm having dinner with Elena and Tyler when my phone rings. It's the officer from Seattle. Mrs. Henderson, the son wants to talk to you. He's flying out tomorrow. Good. Elena, can you clear your schedule for tomorrow afternoon? Why? Because we're going to save a family. The next day, I'm sitting across from David Mitchell, a man in his 40s who looks exactly like Tyler did 2 years ago, confused, worried, and caught between loyalty to his wife and concern for his father. Mr. Mitchell, I say, tell me about your wife's relationship with your father. She's been wonderful, very attentive, very concerned about his well-being. She thinks he needs more help than he's willing to admit. What kind of help? Financial management, medication supervision, maybe assisted living? And what does your father think about that? He thinks Linda's trying to control him, but Dad's always been stubborn about accepting help. Mr. Mitchell, how long has Linda been documenting your father's confusion? About 6 months. She keeps a journal of incidents where he seems disoriented or forgetful. Has she shown you this journal? Some of it. There are photos and notes about conversations where Dad seemed confused about basic things. Elena and I exchange glances. Mr. Mitchell, has your father's doctor expressed concerns about his cognitive function? Not really. Dr. Peterson says Dad's doing well for his age. But Linda thinks the doctor is missing something? She thinks doctors don't always see the day-to-day challenges. I lean forward. Mr. Mitchell, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. 2 years ago, I was in the exact same situation as your father, and my son was in the exact same situation as you. What do you mean? I mean, my daughter-in-law spent months convincing my son that I was more confused than I actually was, then abandoned me at a train station hoping I would die. David goes pale. That's not what Linda would do. Mr. Mitchell, I'm not saying Linda is planning to abandon your father. I'm saying Linda is following the exact same pattern my daughter-in-law followed. What pattern? Systematic documentation of supposed confusion, suggestions about professional financial management, and gradual isolation of the elderly person from their normal support systems. But Linda's trying to help. Mr. Mitchell, what does Linda gain if your father is declared incompetent and needs professional financial management? She gains nothing. She's just concerned about his welfare. Think harder. What happens to your father's assets if he's declared incompetent? Someone would manage them for him. Who? I suppose I would, or Linda and I together. And if your father died while under professional management, the assets would come to me. And if you died, or in a divorce, David stares at me as the implications hit him. Half would go to Linda. Mr. Mitchell, how much money are we talking about? Dad has about $2 million in assets. Elena makes notes. Mr. Mitchell, that's exactly the profile these criminals target. Significant assets, adult children who live far away, and an elderly person who's beginning to show normal age-related changes. You think Linda's a criminal? I think Linda's following a very specific methodology that's used by people who specialize in elder abuse. But she loves me. She loves our family. Mr. Mitchell, I say gently, my daughter-in-law told my son she loved him too, right up until the moment she abandoned me to die and tried to steal my money. What should I do? You should protect your father the same way my son protected me once he understood what was happening. How? Elena pulls out a file. We're going to help you document Linda's behavior, verify her background, and determine whether she's part of a larger criminal network. And if she is, then we're going to stop her before she hurts your father. And if she's not, then your father gets to keep his independence, and you get peace of mind. Mr. Mitchell, I add, either way, you win. Either you protect your father from a criminal, or you prove that your wife is genuinely concerned about his welfare. But what if Linda finds out what we're doing? Then you'll learn very quickly whether she's motivated by love or by money. 3 weeks later, David calls with an update. Mrs. Henderson, you were right. Linda's been lying about almost everything. What did you find? Her background doesn't check out. The college she claims to have attended has no record of her, and Elena found evidence that she's been married twice before, both times to men with elderly parents who died under suspicious circumstances. What are you going to do? I'm going to protect my father, and I'm going to make sure Linda faces consequences for what she's been planning. David, how does it feel to know for certain? Terrifying and relieving. At least now I know what I'm dealing with. And your father? Dad says he knew something was wrong, but was afraid I wouldn't believe him. He's grateful that someone finally listened. That's the most important part. Elderly people often know when they're being targeted, but they're afraid their families won't believe them. Why? Because people like Linda are very good at making elderly people look paranoid and adult children look protective. 6 months later, Linda is arrested and charged with attempted elder abuse and fraud. She pleads guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence and provides information about other cases where she's targeted elderly people. David's father gets to keep his independence and his money. David gets to keep his relationship with his father, and another family avoids the destruction that criminal manipulation can cause. Mrs. Henderson, David tells me after Linda's sentencing, "You saved our family. Mr. Mitchell, you saved your family. I just helped you recognize what you were dealing with." What's the difference? The difference is that recognizing a threat is just the first step. Acting to protect yourself and your family is what actually saves lives. Thank you. David, don't thank me. Help the next family that needs it. How? By telling your story, by helping other adult children recognize the warning signs, by making sure criminals like Linda don't find easy targets. As I drive home from David's father's house, where we've just finished a celebration dinner, I think about the ripple effects of choosing to fight back instead of accepting victimization. My fight against Amber saved not just my life, but Tyler's future. It exposed a criminal network that was targeting hundreds of elderly people. It led to law enforcement training that helps officers recognize elder abuse, and it gave other families the tools they need to protect themselves. At 74 years old, with early-stage Alzheimer's that's progressing slowly but steadily, I've become something I never expected. A teacher. I'm teaching families how to recognize manipulation. I'm teaching elderly people that they have the right to protect themselves. I'm teaching law enforcement how to investigate these cases effectively. But most importantly, I'm teaching everyone that being elderly doesn't make you helpless. It makes you experienced. And experience, when combined with determination, is a formidable weapon against anyone who tries to take advantage of you. Tomorrow, I'm flying to Phoenix to speak at a conference for adult protective services workers. Next week, I'm consulting on a case in Florida where an elderly woman thinks her son's girlfriend is trying to manipulate her finances. The work continues. The fight continues. And as long as there are criminals who think elderly people are easy targets, I'll continue proving them wrong. 3 years after Amber's sentencing, I wake up on my 75th birthday and realize something that stops me cold. I'm happier now than I was before any of this happened. It's not that I'm grateful for what Amber did to me. It's that I'm grateful for who I became because of how I responded to what she did. Elena arrives for our traditional birthday breakfast with coffee, newspapers, and a stack of letters. Fan mail? I ask. Thank you letters, from families who used your warning signs to protect their elderly relatives. I sort through them while Elena orders our breakfast. Letter after letter from adult children who recognized manipulation techniques, elderly people who trusted their instincts about suspicious caregivers, and law enforcement officers who successfully prosecuted elder abuse cases. Elena, I say, look at this one. The letter is from a woman in Maine. Mrs. Henderson, my mother-in-law showed me your presentation video when I started asking too many questions about her finances. I realized I was following the exact same pattern you described. I got help for my gambling problem instead of trying to solve it by stealing from family. Thank you for helping me choose treatment over crime. That's a new one, Elena says. A potential criminal who recognized herself in the pattern and chose to get help instead of committing elder abuse. That's gotta feel good. Elena, it feels better than good. It feels like purpose. After breakfast, Elena and I drive to my new apartment. I've downsized again, this time to a senior living community that offers independence with support services. Not because I'm incapable of living alone, but because I'm realistic about where my Alzheimer's is heading. Any regrets about the move? Elena asks. None. I'm surrounded by people my age who understand that needing some help doesn't mean giving up autonomy. And Tyler? Tyler's 3 blocks away in a house he bought with money he earned from his electrical work. He and Rebecca are engaged. When's the wedding? Next spring. And Elena, Rebecca asked me to help plan it. Not to pay for it, not to pay for it, to help plan it. Because she wants our family traditions to be part of their celebration. Elena smiles. Rebecca gets it. Rebecca gets everything. She loves Tyler for who he is. She respects our family relationships. And she has her own career and financial independence. The anti-Amber, the actual daughter-in-law. That evening, Tyler and Rebecca come over for my birthday dinner. Rebecca brings a cake she made herself and a photo album she's been working on. Vera, she says, I wanted to show you something. The photo album is titled, How Vera Henderson Changed Our Lives. It's filled with pictures and stories from families I've helped, law enforcement officers I've trained, and elderly people who've learned to protect themselves. Rebecca, this is beautiful. Tyler told me about everything that happened with Amber, how she tried to destroy your family, and how you fought back and won. We fought back and won, all of us, but you started it. You refused to be a victim. Rebecca, being a victim isn't a choice, but staying a victim is. What's the difference? The difference is what you do after someone hurts you. You can focus on the damage they caused, or you can focus on preventing them from causing the same damage to other people. And you chose prevention? I chose purpose. Helping other families gave my experience meaning beyond just survival. Tyler looks up from the photo album. Mom, do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd just accepted what Amber did? If you'd just stayed quiet and grateful to be alive? Tyler, honey, if I'd stayed quiet, Amber would still be out there targeting other elderly people. Other families would be going through what we went through. And now? Now Amber's in prison, her criminal network has been shut down, and hundreds of families have the information they need to protect themselves. You changed the system. Tyler, I didn't change the system. I used the system more effectively than most people do. How? By refusing to accept that being elderly with Alzheimer's automatically made my testimony unreliable. By insisting that criminals face consequences for their actions. By turning my experience into education for other people. Rebecca refills our coffee cups. Vera, what's next for you? Next year, I'm co-authoring a book with Elena about recognizing and preventing elder abuse. What are you going to call it? The Last Surprise. How to fight back when your own family tries to destroy you. That's a strong title. It's an honest title. Elena's handling the legal and procedural aspects. I'm handling the family dynamics and emotional manipulation aspects. And after the book? After the book, I keep doing presentations until my Alzheimer's progresses to the point where I can't do them effectively anymore. How will you know when that happens? Tyler will tell me. Won't you, sweetheart? Tyler nods. I'll tell you. And when that time comes, I'll take over the presentations. You? Mom, I know how it feels to be manipulated by someone who claims to love you. Other adult children need to hear that story from someone who lived it. And Rebecca? Rebecca smiles. Rebecca, I'll handle the research and writing. We're going to keep your work going, even when you can't do it yourself. After Tyler and Rebecca leave, I sit in my new apartment, looking at the photo album and thinking about legacy. 3 years ago, I thought my legacy would be the money I left to Tyler. Now I realize my real legacy is the families I've helped protect, the criminals I've helped prosecute, and the system changes I've helped create. Amber tried to steal my money and my life. Instead, she gave me a purpose that's more valuable than either. At 75 years old, with mid-stage Alzheimer's that's progressing but not yet debilitating, I've learned the most important lesson of all. The best revenge isn't getting even with people who hurt you. The best revenge is building something so meaningful from your experience that their attempts to destroy you actually make the world a better place. Amber thought she was targeting a vulnerable elderly woman who would be easy to manipulate and eliminate. What she actually did was awaken a warrior who spent the rest of her life protecting other elderly people from predators like her. Tomorrow, I have a consultation call with a family in Texas who thinks their elderly father is being targeted by a new caregiver. Next week, I'm flying to Seattle to testify in a criminal trial against someone who used Amber's methodology to defraud 3 elderly victims. The work continues. The fight continues. And as long as I have cognitive capacity and breath in my lungs, I'll continue proving that elderly people aren't easy targets. We're just people with more experience. And experience, when combined with determination and support, is the most powerful weapon against anyone who tries to take advantage of vulnerability. My phone rings. Tyler's ringtone. Hi, sweetheart. Mom, I just wanted to call and say happy birthday one more time. Thank you, Tyler. And Mom? Yes? I'm proud of you. Not just for surviving what Amber did, but for what you built from that survival. Tyler, I'm proud of you too. For what? For learning to choose people who deserve your love. For supporting me when it would have been easier to doubt me. For becoming a man your father would be proud of. Do you think Dad would approve of Rebecca? Tyler, your father would love Rebecca because she makes you happy without making you useful. What's the difference? The difference is everything, sweetheart. Everything. After we hang up, I look around my apartment. Photos of Tyler's graduation from electrical school, pictures from families I've helped, awards from law enforcement agencies, and Rebecca's photo album documenting the ripple effects of choosing to fight back instead of accepting defeat. At 75 years old, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, not in spite of what happened to me, but because of how I chose to respond to what happened to me. Amber Henderson tried to end my story at a train station in Pine Valley. Instead, she just gave me a better story to tell. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.